Hey there, Postal here. So today we are taking out the TA-183. This is actually one of my favorite planes in the game. It is by no means overpowered plane, but it is really can be a very good plane. Why do I say that? A lot of you would simply point out the tier 8, 9, and 10 in this particular tech line are pretty poorly received. The TA-152, right before this plane, it's just not a very good plane for my playstyle. How about I hit the F3 button? There we go. You've got three 30mm cannons on there that are all sniper cannons, and yet none of them can snipe. They just don't hit when you want them to. Ever. If you get above 12,000 personal points on that plane, a lot of good RNG on your side for that particular battle. Then you've got the FW-252 after this plane. That particular plane is basically a bad version of a Swift. If that tells you what you need to know. A lot of people don't even like the Swift, so to go to a worse version of that is probably not everybody's cup of tea. I'm just gonna say. Well, what the heck makes this plane so special? Well, if I could not overheat my guns, it'd be very special. This plane is basically a 262 in a fighter's skin. What do I mean by that? Well, you've got the same guns. You've actually got the same airspeed. And you've got the maneuverability of a fighter. Well, bad maneuverability, actually, for a fighter. But I play this plane as if I was in a 262. If I play this like I'm in a 262, and I do things that I would do in a 262, with a little bit more flexibility in regards to maneuverability, then I tend to have quite a lot of success in this plane. I'm going to leave this guy. That's fine. We're going to turn back around. Let's get our boost on. He's coming back to me anyway. So you might say to yourself, well, what the hell? Like, this is a tier 9 plane. Why are we comparing it favorably to a tier 8 plane and expecting everybody to be in awe? Well, the fact of the matter is that you're in a fighter, right? You're in a little tiny huckabean of a fighter. This thing is difficult to hit. It's small. It's not a large target. And 262 is not a huge target either. But, I mean, this is definitely a smaller hitbox. Did I set him on fire? No, I didn't. And so it's pretty darn enjoyable from that perspective. Now, if you try to play this like a freaking fighter, like a normal light fighter, you will definitely have struggles. I mean, even versus that Seahawk, you see I had struggles, right? But, again, the way I'm playing it is as I would a 262. I'm going to be boosting past the planes that I need to boost past, which is going to be the majority of them. And I'm going to be turning around and coming back in for attacks. I will certainly turn with some planes that I know that I can turn with. I can't turn with tier 9 Batwing, that's for sure. But what I can do is knock out his engine, knock him out, right? And so if you've got that kind of mentality with this plane, you can have great success with this plane. Definitely. P-82 is coming my way. P-82 is a very, very maneuverable plane. Probably actually need to turn on my pneumatic control assist here. Get my 30s out ahead of him. Remember, you need to aim further out with your 30mm cannons. Using Das Boosten to turn back on him here. He's going to try to get away, but he can't. There we go. And I'm not even going out of my way to go get him. I'm not one of those particular kind of pilots that's just gonna try to make a particular plane's life a living hell. Dang it, was not able to defend this sector. Gonna use some gravity assist here. We were just taking out a bunch of chunk crits on these guys. Doing all kinds of damage. Frickin' Jawa cannot be something you necessarily want to go against head on. But we've got 30mm cannons too, hombre. And so we're going to utilize those. I feel relatively comfortable going head on. Let's try to get out of this sector. Let's see if we can't use our gravity-assisted speed here to get down and go. Got a GA here, so let's do some damage to him if we can. Oop, a little bit early there. With these 30mm cannons, you definitely want to be aiming further out, right? When in doubt, aim further out. Crud. Got this guy again. Some chunks. It's definitely going to be the bigger threat, even though the 329 is certainly doing some damage to me. God dang. 329 is doing a lot of damage to me. Air brakes. There we go. Luckily was able to survive that. We've got the Jawas coming head on for us this time. No, he's not coming head on for us, luckily. Let's go ahead and use our boost to get straight up here. Get some distance and turn back around. Yeah, let's go for this guy, it would seem. We've got another multi-roll inbound, so we've got a cluster coming on here. And we can't really stick with them, so we're just gonna keep on keeping on here. But another freaking Jawa. Game over. That was a lot quicker than I thought it would be, actually. 6.5 minutes. Yeah, so let's head on back. So you can kind of think of this plane as in a couple different manners. I've equated it to a 262 with maneuverability. And it really, truly is that, in my opinion. Obviously, it's not a bunch of maneuverability. Another way that you could think of it is a Jawa with a hell of a lot more speed and altitude performance, but less maneuverability. I think that's kind of, it's a little bit more convoluted. But this does have very similar gun performance to the Tier 8 J7W1 Jawa. And so you can certainly think of it in that manner. So this is a really, really hard-hitting plane, right? And this game wasn't even, I mean, let me go back here. This game wasn't even like all that crazy, like over-the-top nuts, right? Very quick game. Was able to just kind of go through the motions, take out airplanes. Wasn't even trying to get a McCampbell's, which is probably why I earned a McCampbell's. Got one of everything. Got a lot of multi-rolls. That's what this plane can really, really do, actually. The ability to take on any plane, really, is certainly a nice thing. The biggest weakness of the TA-183 is honestly other fighters. So this is not a turn fighter. If we compare this to the other Tier 9 fighters, it's going to be on the very low end, if not the lowest, of maneuverability. Even things like the 1092, which is not known for its maneuverability, has a decent amount more maneuverability than this. How about a Big 9? Another very not maneuverable plane. Still more maneuverable than this. F6U, that might be the one that's less maneuverable than this plane. And it probably is, because keep in mind my F6U is specialized. But if you're comparing the TA-183 to a F6U, then you know you're not very maneuverable. If you're comparing it to a MiG-9, which I haven't specialized yet, and I've specialized this plane and gotten a couple little bumps more on maneuverability, then you know the TA-183 is not maneuverable. You're going to get stuck with FJ1s and just get completely outturned. You're going to get stuck in battles with 1092s and be outturned enough, right? There's going to be attackers out there. There we go. Those clearly have more maneuverability than you. what you need to know with this plane is what you're up against and what you can do against those. So against an attacker, you've got the altitude performance. Yeah, technically you both have basically the same speed, I believe. Yeah, close enough. You've got the better guns and the better altitude performance in the TA-183. Utilize that to your advantage if you're having to go against an attacker. If you're going against a 1092, it's probably going to be more of the same, if I remember correctly. Yeah, more altitude, more speed. Your planes are a little bit closer statistically. Keep in mind, though, neither my TA-183 nor my 1092 are maxed out specialization. So I'm sure there's definitely some room for the metrics to be bumped up. But either way, you want to use your TA-183's altitude performance typically over everything else and its airspeed. The FJ-1 is going to be one of those planes that can cause issues. Its airspeed isn't that much worse than yours, and its altitude performance is not worse at all, really. And it's much more maneuverable. So you just need to be mindful of the FJ-1. You want to be doing hit and runs. You want to be doing the boom and zoom. Keep on zooming in that kind of situation. Then if you happen to run into an F6U, you can probably outmaneuver it, believe it or not. You definitely have better altitude performance than the F6U. So a MiG-9, if you happen to run into these, you don't really see them all as much on NA as you used to. But you've actually got just a little bit more altitude performance. This plane you're going to want to play against, kind of like you with the FJ-1. You really want to be dictating the battle, not reacting to a MiG-9. Because if you're reacting to a MiG-9 that's already on you, or an FJ-1 that's already on you, you're probably going to be dead pretty quickly. And so I don't hear a lot of people talk about the TA-183. I was kind of thinking about this earlier today. Like, I do a lot of videos on planes that are not meta. Like, I can't tell you last time I did a 1092 video, or an 1101, or an XF90. I tend to focus on the planes that not a lot of people are playing and see if I can try to make everybody see what makes these kinds of planes special. And I probably should start posting some meta plane videos, but I think the TA-183 is one of those planes that doesn't get a lot of love, either because it's right after the TA-152 or because it's right before the FW252, which is garbage. And so there's really no reason to get this plane. And I wouldn't necessarily say, go out of your way to get the TA-183. It's not that good of a plane to where you desperately need to have it. But I would say that it's not a plane to ignore. It's not a plane to never get. It's just a plane to take your time to get. It really has the ability to dictate battles a lot more than some other fighters out there. Keep in mind, with the airspeed and the heavy-hitting power of a TA-183, you're never going to be in a situation like you might be in a Spitfire 14, which I'm currently grinding on EU. I'm in a Spitfire 14, and my team doesn't want to cap sectors. Spitfire 14 is not really built for that. Yeah, it's heavy-hitting enough, it's hard-hitting enough, but the airspeed, the altitude performance of a Spitfire 14 just isn't going to be able to dictate and determine an attacking outcome on the battle. Spitfire 14 is really built for defense, right? TA-183 can do defense very, very well, especially if you're defending against heavy fighters and bombers and GAs. But with its airspeed and its gun armament, its altitude performance, those things will allow you to take a TA-183 and actually capture sectors as needed. Again, with the mentality of a 262 going into those type of engagements, you can certainly dictate the outcome of a battle and dictate the outcome of an attack. You still need to be mindful, just like a 262. You can't just get yourself stuck in and expect to definitely get out of a situation. You definitely want to take steps to make sure you've got an out if you need it. But make sure you're aiming far enough ahead with your 30mm cannons so they can hit. When they hit, you're going to do crits. You're going to knock out wings. You're going to knock out engines. You're going to knock out pilots. You're going to knock out those items that a plane needs. And that can sometimes just turn an engagement. You knock out the wing on a MiG-9, for instance, suddenly you're much more maneuverable than they are. Knock out their tail. Even with a 1092, you knock out a 1092's tail, and very often you're going to be able to come out on top on that engagement. So the TA-183, it's not overpowered, but it's good with the right mentality. And I think that's kind of what separates a lot of quote-unquote good planes from the less desirable planes, is just having the right mentality on the plane. And if you've got the right kind of focus with the TA-183, you can definitely have a positive impact on a battle. So this is a quick one. I've had a lot of quick ones today in the TA-183. It just fits my playstyle. It is an attacking light fighter, and it can hit and punch freaking hard. This little tiny huckabee can do some major damage. So I don't know, do you guys agree with me? Am I just talking on my ass here? Is this a plane that you enjoy? Have you not even gotten anywhere close to it because the reputation of the Tier 8 and the Tier 10, and to a lesser extent the Tier 9? I haven't heard a lot of people saying positive things about this particular plane. I suspect it might be because they're trying to play it like a 1092, or they're trying to play it like an FJ1, and this just doesn't fly like those other, quote-unquote high-altitude fighters. You really want to play it a little bit differently. And I'd love to hear your opinion either down below or in my Discord. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.